It's Monday morning. It's time for the Ringer NBA show Heat Check. I'm Juliet Litman.
I'm John Gonzalez.
Hey, man, congrats on the Eagles.
Very exciting, and apologies to everybody who's about to listen to this podcast. We're not going to talk any basketball whatsoever.
Just Eagles.
It'll just be about Philadelphia, and also to my fellow Philadelphians, most of you celebrated responsibly last night.
Nice.
One of you punched allegedly a police horse. Don't punch horses.
No, definitely don't punch anything, really.
Don't punch anything, but especially horses.
Everyone knows I know a ton about football, so it'll be a great 40 minutes. Just kidding. Let's talk about the Cavs. What else is new? John, the Cavs are sliding. They got blown out at home on Saturday by the Thunder.
Yes.
I was at a women's march, the women's march here in LA, and I afterwards...
Big turnout.
Yes, big turnout. Checked my phone, and I was like, whoa, this is a blowout. I actually thought the Cavs were going to win that game. I guess maybe I'm dumb, but I'm just so used to LeBron flipping the switch when necessary and his teammates getting there with him. I was surprised about this blowout. Were you surprised?
Yeah, my reflexive default position is usually it's fine. It's the regular season.
Yeah.
I'm slipping past that now. I'm starting to slide away from that position and get closer to and then beyond is oh no.
Yeah.
And then it gets really critical on my sliding scale. This is not as good as you would want for the Cavs. Things are not looking up.
No, they're definitely not. LeBron keeps saying they're in Strugglesville, which I find to be hilarious. LeBron is at once the coolest, most powerful, important person in sports, and also just such a dad sometimes.
Yeah.
Strugglesville. I like it. He's corny.
So they're 14th in net rating. Their defense has recently been bad, but it's been bad all season long. And we shouldn't forget that last year going into the playoffs, that was a major concern. They overcame it to get out of the Eastern Conference, but obviously it was their Achilles heel in the finals against the Warriors, and the Warriors exploited them. All season long, it's been an issue yet again. They've got the 29th defensive rating in the league.
29 of 30.
Turns out there's only 30 teams in the league still. Only the Sacramento Kings have been worse. You do not want to keep company in anything that the Sacramento Kings are doing. So this is a real concern for them. Yeah, even David Blatt is throwing shade at them.
I hope we don't give up as many points as the Cavaliers gave up last night.
David Blatt from nowhere resurfaces.
Unbelievable. Do you think he just goes home every night and catches up with the Cavs and he's just been waiting for this moment?
He's been waiting 2 years to drag the Cavs, and it finally came around. So I guess good for David Blatt, but bad for the Cavs.
Yeah, it's tough. And so now they're in a ton of trade rumors. There's a lot of trade rumors about them.
The Kemba trade that ESPN floated is interesting. In that potential hypothetical, they had Isaiah going. Poor Isaiah. I guess he'd get another tribute video. Channing Frye and the 2018 Brooklyn pick for Kemba and Johnny O'Bryant. Is Isaiah appreciably better? I mean, is Kemba appreciably better than Isaiah? I don't understand that trade.
I think he doesn't have the injury history, right? And he's having a pretty good season.
He is having a pretty good season. He's a really good scoring point guard.
And when they do need that, they need that offense. It can't just be through LeBron. That's what they missed the most from last year. But they're just kind of a mess. Do we worry about Ty Lue? This is what LeBron had to say about him being possibly fired. I would hope not, but really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with our team. I have no idea what conversations have been going on. I've been trying to stay as laser sharp as I can to keep my guys ready to go out and play. Is that an endorsement of Ty Lue?
Not an endorsement.
No. And also, you combine that with Isaiah saying they never practice. What's Ty Lue up to then?
This is really confounding. If you're Ty Lue, you are not at all happy that LeBron was yeah, I don't know, man. Good luck. Tough stuff for Ty Lue. I also wonder, when you're a veteran team, you get a lot of leeway with this stuff.
Yeah.
And the longer that this season goes on, the less you're going to practice, the less you're going to have shoot-arounds. That's fairly commonplace, especially towards the back end of the season as the playoffs approach. Teams kill practices all the time. Earlier in the year, especially when you're struggling and especially when you've got defensive issues, I wonder about them not practicing as much.
Sure.
And so, yeah, if you're Ty Lue, you got to be sweating this right now.
And I will say, LeBron, after they got blown out on Saturday, LeBron made a point of being we have a practice at 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so LeBron's the voice of practice. I don't know what's going on there. It's just, this is devolving into February with LeBron, because Wade tweeted last night, "Look in the mirror and you will get all the answers you need. Good night." And then it's just so is he trying to talk himself into I think that that's like directed at himself. Obviously, that's like what mirror comments usually are.
Sure.
But it's also like is he trying to like be a leader and be like young guys or other guys like you need to look in the mirror too?
See, that's okay. So you threw this out there, and like initially because the mirror component, you would think like it's a naturally like I'm going to look in the mirror at myself. I don't know, but the more I think about it, I'm not interpreting that way. I think like there's a lot of finger pointing going on, and he's going, "Hey, you got to look at yourself," which ironically, like he should also be looking at himself, and maybe he isn't. None of this is good for the Cavs. They clearly need to shake it up. The interesting thing I thought is that Ty Lue said that there are no lineup changes imminent.
Right.
So he's just going to try to ride this out. I guess that's one way to handle it. I would shake up the lineup at the very least.
What's the one move you think he should make?
Well, you need more defense. The problem is you don't have anybody who's really on your team to play defense. I mean, like, Jay Crowder, in theory, would be a good defender, but KOC has been saying this for the last 2 years. He's really slipped in the last couple of years. So.
And also, Charks and Gallagher will tell you that when he was in Dallas, he was no dynamo either. Like everywhere Jay Crowder goes, he has a legion of discerning fans who disapprove.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like Jay Crowder, but some of his ability, obviously, the luster has worn a little bit. But where are you going to get like somebody? I mean, Kevin Love isn't a great defender. Dwayne Wade is old. You've got LeBron. J.R. Smith, I don't think has played defense in his entire life. What do you have? I mean, Amon Shumpert used to play defense.
Sure.
But I mean, he's playing 20 minutes a game.
I
hasn't been out there in a while.
Can I float an unfounded theory?
Sure.
It literally is totally unfounded, but I think like one of the strengths of LeBron is that he like for all of the Kyrie didn't want to play with him, and for we've been dealing with Cavs drama for like 4 years now. Mm-hmm. He always has sort of just found a way to like rally the troops and like flip the switch, etc. I feel like probably having Wade there actually makes that harder for him to do, because it's sort of like he brings in a lieutenant in a way that like it's clear that he has an allegiance to one person over everyone else, and so therefore I feel like it makes it harder to marshal the rest of the troops. But I don't know if that's correct. But that's just sort of like my own armchair psychology.
Something's wrong.
Yeah,
something's wrong. And if I were Ty Lue, I would at the very least like just move some pieces around.
Yeah,
just to why not? Like, what do you have to lose at this point? Because if not, you might lose your job. You might all of a sudden you're going to be David Blatt dragging the Cavs from the sideline like in a TV game that nobody was watching. I don't even know where he was when that happened. Like
somewhere in Europe, I think.
Somewhere in your undisclosed location in Europe.
A bunker in Europe. David Blatt weighs in.
It's crazy.
Let's move on. Let's talk about another friend of LeBron, Chris Paul.
He's been weird lately.
Real weird. So. He was a key player in the fracas in the Staples Center last week between the Clippers and the Rockets, but no suspension for him or James Harden. Mm-hmm. Jeff Van Gundy posited on Saturday that perhaps it was because they didn't want him to miss out on any national TV games, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. Also thought it was interesting for Jeff Van Gundy to say that on the national TV broadcast.
Yes.
But that's kind of neither here nor there. And then when the AllStar Starters were announced, Chris Paul was asked about if they should televise the draft, #televise the draft.
Yep.
And he didn't really want to weigh in. He was very terse. He was asked about the conversation with him and Adam Silver, and all he just said was like, yes, we talked about it. And then they asked Kara Sherry told him, and he said, nope, Adam knows. So he's playing that one close to the vest. And then after the Rockets beat the Nuggets, he was super, super short with them. And yeah,
he's been grumpy lately.
He's been grumpy. I also, at the end of the third quarter against the Warriors, I was like, oh, sulking Chris is coming out. I can't wait for this fourth.
Sulking Chris is a real thing.
Oh,
angry, grumpy Chris
real. It's super real.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like people who watch the NBA have been talking about like Chris Paul and how he interacts with his teammates for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think like his interactions with the media have been like slightly different. Like he's actually pretty good and easy to talk to when you get him like in a certain setting.
Sure.
But this lately, it's just been like universal across the board. He's angry at everybody. It's all very strange.
It is weird, particularly from the Players Association president.
Yes.
You'd think there's sort of like a managerial cap he would put on to like set the right example, but maybe this is the example he wants to set.
So all of the stuff that we've heard about Chris Paul over the last however many years about him being like a difficult teammate.
Sure. Difficult teammate, but then like supposed to be like a great guy, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of like public relations management that goes on to have that reputation while also having your teammates think that you're difficult to play with.
But like how much of that do you buy into? Like we watch this, like this is a little bit of tea leaf reading right now because we're, like we don't really know Chris Paul. But he's got this reputation that like sort of runs counter to the public Chris Paul that we see in like the State Farm commercials and like, when he's even making fun of himself in that James Harden video game commercial. Like, I wonder how much of this is like he's really a grump. I think that he is grumpy about basketball and like not outside of that. It's kind of my take on it. One thing that's always been said about him is he really takes care of his family. Big family man.
Yeah.
Which I love.
And not just like his kids and his wife, but like also his cousins, aunts and uncles. Like there's a lot of like Paul family activities. And he, many years ago when he was first coming up, he was on Wait, Don't Tell Me, talking about his grandfather and how he owned the gas station in North Carolina. Like I think he's like
which is the stuff I love.
Yeah,
from Chris Paul.
Totally. But I think that he just like really, I'm scared of the Rockets on behalf of the Warriors. I feel like they're a little scary because they're really dialed in.
What did you think of that game?
It was really fun.
How much weight do you lend to that?
I think a decent amount. One of my first thoughts was like, wow, the Warriors really missed Jordan Bell already, which I thought was interesting and like maybe a bad sign. It was a pretty bad staff performance. It also was their 5th game on the road, 5 of 5, I believe. So
the Rockets are cooking right now.
Yeah, the Rockets are cooking. It's also, but it's Capella looked amazing, like, and that just seemed like a real.
Capella's been killing it this year.
and that's like probably one of the biggest tests for him. Not because they're so strong inside, but just because if that's going to be like the Rockets X factor, then it has to work out. And so he looked really good. Also Harden, I thought when he was switched on to Steph, like played Steph pretty well. And
you're selling me on this. Like I initially was just like, whatever. It's a regular season game. The Warriors are...
I think if it had been the playoffs, KD would have been a little bit more assertive, and that is usually like. That's what we saw last year in the finals. That when they need it, KD like turns it on. And I don't know if we saw the full KD experience on Saturday. So that's kind of my caveat on that one. Also, even though he's kind of washed, like Andre Iguodala adds a dimension to that team that I think they rely on to a certain extent. So I don't think Iguodala's going to win the finals for them or the Western Conference Finals, but. He's
a component that they need.
Yeah,
they need
sure.
some sort of contribution from him.
I think the Rockets looked really good though, and they're undefeated when Capella, Paul, and Harden are all playing. So if they stay healthy, they're definitely.
Is that right? They're undefeated.
Yeah.
Look at the little nuggets that you just drop in. I wasn't ready for that.
I think I saw it on Twitter. So
okay, well, nicely done, Twitter.
It's not like I did much research.
You mined it and you moved it into the podcast.
As you know, no one else knows. I show up for this podcast, and you do most of the work.
That's not
true.
That's not true. You and Isaac carry me.
I thought it was fun. It just also makes the rest of the season and the playoffs a little more exciting.
It does, and that's something that I'm like, because we had talked previously about like, could the Rockets be like an actual impediment to the Warriors? And I don't know what percentage I ascribe to that preseason and early on, like especially because the Rockets have played such great defense this year, and I didn't expect that. Like I was starting to think like, maybe. Now for sure, like this is like potentially a thing. Like they might actually have a foil in their own conference. It's interesting. I obviously think that the Warriors are still the heavy favorite, but it's way more fun to imagine a world where the Rockets could potentially unseat the Warriors than just going, we're just going to have another coronation. Right.
Yeah. Also, the thing about that, the concern of there's only one ball for Harden and Paul, because there's been injuries, that hasn't really been like an issue, because they've kind of like, for all intents and purposes, in platooning, and that's the way that D'Antoni plays them quite a bit. Is that they one of them's always on the court at the same time, blah blah blah, and they seem like they really happily coexist, which is I think just one of the biggest surprises of the season.
Yeah.
That kind of goes counter to the Chris Paul is a bad teammate argument.
It definitely does.
Which I like also. Like, let's give Chris Paul a little more dimension.
I would like to believe in the Chris Paul who said like one of the things that bothered him about the Clippers was that he wanted to have everybody hang out together. That that Family Guy atmosphere where it's like, let's all be together, let's have fun, let's hang out. Like, I want to believe in that Chris Paul, the guy who, when Blake Griffin went down last year and we were all in Utah and he was really upset for his guy. Like, that Chris Paul is the Chris Paul I like, not like grumpy, don't talk to me about the All-Star game Chris Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun. Harden's just so good right now.
So good.
Even if he's coming back. One other sneaky reason why that game was fun, Harden barely got to the free throw line. It wasn't like a slogfest of
You don't like that?
No, I hate it. It's so slow. That's a real NBA junkie opinion.
It's a weird thing, and maybe Raptors fans will get angry at me because I mentioned this about DeRozan being like the least exciting starter. But what I like about DeRozan is his efficiency in getting to the line. Like, that's a skill. And similarly, James Harden, I know that it's not an exciting skill. It's actually quite boring for you and a lot of people to watch James Harden get to the line and shoot free throws.
It slows things down. I'm just like, let's keep it moving.
But it's such an art form, the way that they can draw fouls.
It's true.
There's a beauty in it.
Okay.
It's not exciting, but there's a beauty in it.
I think that's also part of the Harden Chris Paul experience together.
Yeah, is
there's less like ISO for Harden because of just the system's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some teams with infighting or struggling a little bit. As LeBron will say, let's take it to Strugglesville.
Take it on down to Strugglesville.
Exactly.
In our Justin Timberlake voice. I didn't realize that the Wizards were having some issues.
The Wizards are a mess. This is a good one.
I checked out on the Wizards.
You just totally are. You've written them off.
I did.
The only 3 teams that matter in the East, or I guess there's 4: Bucks, Raptors, C's, and Cavs. Right? And so you're just done with the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Wizards are fine, right? The Wizards are like a second, third tier team, that middle of the pack group that we had talked about previously, where they exist in the NBA.
Yes,
they're going to make the playoffs. They're not that exciting, and it's fine. Like, they need to add if they're going to ever be anything more than that.
Sure.
But I didn't realize that they were fighting with each other. Like, that they had to call a team meeting.
Here's what happened. Thanks to Candace Buckner for this article. She's also one of my favorite NBA reporters. These are quotes from John Wall via Candace Buckner. We had our team meeting. A couple guys took it in the negative way, and it hurt our team. Instead of taking it in a positive way like we did in the past and using it to build our team up, it kind of set us back a little bit. Bradley Beal added, "It was tough. I try to keep all of our stuff as personal as possible, but I think in a way not everybody got a chance to speak whenever they wanted to. They didn't want to bring up an issue or something they had a problem with on the team. Regardless of what may be going on, as men, we've got to be able to accept what the next man says, be respectful about it, and move on from it. I think it was one of those situations where we didn't necessarily get everything that we wanted to get accomplished."
Yeah, my favorite part about that whole thing is that then afterwards he kind of just threw up his hands, and Beal was like, honestly, it was probably pointless.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow, that is tough. I have a couple of thoughts on this, but
please.
First of all, I just feel like this was like Bradley Beal and John Wall were like, we're having a team meeting and probably talked to everyone. And so no one else got to speak because those are the two who were like, this was bad. And then they probably like, I don't know. I guess this is just a team that doesn't really like each other.
This is such a metaphor for the Wizards that they were struggling. I at least was sort of unaware of like their internal issues. Then they called a meeting and they were like, yeah, that meeting was dumb.
What a waste.
Like, that's so perfect, Wizards. As we're recording this, they've slipped to 5th in the Eastern Conference. The Miami Heat are on a heater and have overtaken them for the 4th spot. I mean, the Wizards are, I like them fine, but again, like, unless they add, what are they really doing? And even they seem to be sort of bored with themselves.
Yeah, I think they're just sort of like, this is not going anywhere.
Like, what's the right now, as currently comprised, what's the ceiling for the Wizards? Like, win
Eastern Conference Finals?
Like, if
At
everything
max.
absolutely breaks right, they win 2 rounds. I think even that's probably a stretch. Yeah, win a round and you're going home, probably.
Wonder what it would do to throw Boogie into this locker room.
Yeah, this is maybe not the best spot for Boogie.
I don't think so. And if you're team Boogie, why would you want to go? No.
Yeah.
Except to like hang with your friend, but like whatever. Boogie's fine. I think he could like find friends wherever he is.
Yeah, he's big and cuddly.
Also sliding, Boston Celtics lost 3 in a row. Only 2 games up on the Raptors now in the East.
The Raptors,
Raptors rising.
Raptors rising. Celtics are on a road trip right now. They're going to be here in LA.
Yes.
They have the Lakers and the Clippers back-to-back Tuesday.
Heat check field trip tomorrow.
Heat check field trip. We're going to that game. Yeah, this is an interesting time for the Celtics.
Yeah, I like it.
Are you worried? As a resident Celtics fan and J team enthusiast, what's your level of concern?
I feel like this is a win for Gordon Hayward. That's kind of my take. It seemed like the Celtics didn't really need him. They got these two young guys that everything's are going great, but young teams struggle at some point. And I think we're seeing that right now. And also, if a 40-point game from Kyrie can't get you a win, that's a problem.
Percentage chance that the Raptors, not the Celtics, win the Eastern Conference regular season, not playoffs.
I want to put it at 52%.
You're handicapping the Raptors as the favorites now.
I think so. I think that the big lesson of the Spurs is the consistency and experience contributes to a strong regular season, if not the playoffs.
Yeah, the Raptors are sort of like the or anti-Wizards.
Yeah.
They're together. They're a really good team. They figured out how they want to play. DeRozan's an all-star. They're just chugging along. I still probably am 55-45 or even 60-40. Celtics will pull it out and have the best record in the East regular season-wise.
Sure.
But it's not as crazy a thought right now as I probably would have thought it would be before the season started, to imagine a world where the Raptors end up with the best record regular season in the Eastern Conference. Could happen.
I just worry that.
Congrats, Raptors fans.
Totally. Let's just read a Kyrie Irving quote for good measure.
Yeah, do it.
You can never go wrong. You got to hit some adversity. We have to hit something. We need it as a team. That's part of the game, and learning one another and being able to figure out how do you respond from that. Us as a group, as we come in the last 4 months or 5 months, it's new. We need to hit something like this in order for us to grow. It's part of the game. It's part of being on a team, part of being a professional on any team, in any environment. You got to have stuff like this where you got to figure it out. Is that the most normal Kyrie Irving quote
it might be.
of the last 8 months?
It might be. And
shout out to Kyrie for just speaking those talking points.
Right, just doing hitting the cliches. It's fine because also the Celtics had that incredible start to the season where they win 16 in a row, right?
Yeah.
So incredible beginning. So they've got a cushion. I don't think it's a huge deal.
Me neither. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. Also, no one really expected this team to win a title. They're overperforming since
Yes.
they lost Hayward.
Yeah.
Per Instagram, it looks like Gordon Hayward is doing rehab in San Diego right now.
Is this the most fun, just because we don't know how it's going to shake out, Eastern Conference playoff picture that we've seen so far?
I mean,
in
also,
the last few years, because now I still think it's the Cavs to lose because of playoff LeBron. However, kind of a grab bag of teams.
Sure.
You could see anybody really facing off against the Cavs, depending on how it shakes out, playoff seeding wise for the finals.
Totally. It's been a fun few weeks. I feel like the NBA is really heating up.
Sixers are playing well, 8-2 over their last 10. The Bucks have fallen off a little bit. Who knows who's going to be in this?
I know. It's all the games are fun because they all matter.
They do.
We talked about last week, when you have so many teams that are kind of in the middle, a lot of ramifications for each game.
That is one thing about that Wizards, Heat, Pacers, Sixers, mid-tier teams. On any night when they're playing each other, it's this is going to be, I have no idea what's going to happen. These teams are all pretty similar in terms of they could beat each other on any given night. In a 7-game series, who knows how it would possibly shake out. That's why it's accepting, the Warriors. This has been a really interesting season for the NBA because who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it is good for the NBA. And on that note, let's talk about the AllStar Starters in a real or not real All-Star edition.
That's hard to say.
Thank you. I garbled it the first time, in fact.
You did it. That was good.
Thank you. So here are our starters. In the West, we got Steph and KD, Boogie and AD, and James Harden. In the East, we got LeBron, Giannis, Kyrie, Embiid, and DeMar DeRozan.
You did that off the top of your head.
I did, off the dome.
I could watch you do that.
Thank you.
That was very impressive.
I just want to say I picked 9 out of 10 of those, so that's one of the reasons it's easy for me to remember.
Before we get into the real or not real, the Pelicans having 2 starters
and being 500
is amazing,
incredible.
But also a little sad. Very Pelicans.
Totally. But,
peak Pelicans.
Sorry, they're 3 games over 500 now. That was very rude of me, and they're sitting in 7th.
Right, but it's like you have two starters, two of the most dominant players in the NBA, and this is the best it's probably going to get.
Listening to Bill and Zach talk about Anthony Davis on the Bill portion of their Home and Home, I was like, I really don't appreciate this guy enough. I was like, thank you for teaching me like what I really should be paying attention to.
Should they have two starters, real or not real?
No.
So do you think Jimmy should be in there?
I don't like the way they do. Like if they're getting rid of the actual teams, like for this draft situation, like let's get rid of like front court and back court. Like it's like basketball's like we're in a positionless basketball moment anyway. Like let's just pick like the 5 most popular. And and so then I think Jimmy could have made it if it was 3 guards instead of 2. Like I just think I think the fact that it's 3 front court and 2 back court is like stupid in this day and age of basketball.
I am 1000% on board with this. I think just have the best players, regardless of position. Throw them in a grab bag. I love this pickup philosophy of we're going to pick our teams. Isn't
that also like literally how GMs think now? Like Daryl Morey was like, let's just get the best player we can.
Just get the best players.
Yeah.
And also Steph, when Steph was asked about it, he went the opposite of Chris Paul. And he said, I don't know how I'm going to build my team. Maybe I'll just pick all guards. And I'm like, that's fascinating.
Yeah, fun. Let's give it a
like
shot.
A lot of fun. Yes. Do that. That sounds like something that I'd be really excited to see.
Like, let's get Steph, Kyrie, Harden, DeRozan.
Do it. Who's playing the
and maybe
5?
Giannis. That's a fun 5.
Yes. Right. Or maybe, maybe LeBron goes the other way, takes Giannis.
Point Giannis with 4 point guards.
It would be great.
That would be really awesome.
Real or not real, KOC was right, because KOC, when he put his All-Star starters together, he had Horford over Embiid.
No. I like Horford a lot, and obviously he's essential. He's like one of the most crucial cogs to the Celtics to the extent they're having any success. But the Sixers are a completely different team without Joel Embiid. Like they transform. I think also Kyrie is the most important player on the Celtics, and Embiid is the most important player on the Sixers. And so if we're just going for like sheer talent, let's go with Embiid.
A lot of Embiid shade about him being a starter. Another one on this front, real or not real, Porzingis was right. He should start over Embiid. He said, he was asked about this. He said, the players know, that's all I'm going to say.
No. Okay.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I know that the players, that is true. In the voting, the players sided with Porzingis over Embiid more. But take off your Sixers fan hat for a minute. Like, who would you rather have, Porzingis or Embiid on your team?
Who would I rather have on my team for the All-Star?
No, just like period.
Period.
Yes. On your regular NBA team.
It's very close. I'm going to go Embiid.
Yeah, me too. I actually don't even think it's that close. I think there's like a lot of things about Embiid that I find really impressive, and I know his health is an issue, but so is Porzingis's.
I mean, they're both extreme. Like, you can't go wrong. They're both young and extremely talented. I was thinking health as like my consideration.
Yeah, I know.
If Embiid, if you could guarantee me that they'd have the same amount of health, it would be Embiid all day, every day.
I think Porzingis is on like the Blake train of like many small injuries,
small little nagging injuries.
Yes.
Yeah, he does have those.
And like while Embiid had like much more glaring ones, like the small ones sideline you too.
The numbers argument on this too. Like I don't know. Like Porzingis is like, well, the players know, but like Embiid he's got him in rebounds and assists. He's got him in box plus minus, win shares, true shooting percentage. Like the advanced metrics like Embiid better. The counting stats like him better. I like him better just like as a human, social media.
I think that we're focusing on blocks a little too much this season. This is one of my takes.
Tell me.
I just feel like as a defensive metric, obviously it's important, but like 4 blocks per game is important, but doesn't like swing a game completely. And so there's just been a lot of talk about like Porzingis leading the lead in blocks and like, wow, KD has so many. I don't know if this is like the kind of thing like everyone on NBA Reddit's gonna be like, shut up, you have no idea what you're talking about. But like who builds a team around who's the best, who averages the most blocks? You know what I mean? Like I just feel like
it's a helpful thing when like
it's like an interesting metric to evaluate a player, but it's not like gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, like rim protection numbers obviously matter, and we have like field goal percentages at the rim and all those things. Those are useful metrics. I think like if you're just talking about like counting stat blocks, then like you have to apply to like which player. Like Porzingis getting a lot of blocks is more interesting and useful than say
like a point guard.
Well, I was going to say then just having DeAndre Jordan out there who, like, that's
swats away the ball.
That's what he's doing, and that's it. And, like, you can't use him.
Yeah.
You can't deploy him more than 4 feet from the basket.
It's more like an important condiment on top of, like, a player's, like, what they offer. That, to me, than, like, sort of the basis of evaluating someone. But whatever. That's just sort of, like, personal discourse criticism.
Because you brought up KD. One more real or not real All-Star Starter edition. KD should be the first pick in the draft.
I think there's a really good case for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most talented overall. I'm most intrigued by Giannis. Also, I want to know...
What about Harden, though? I just think, like, I think Harden might be the best one-on-one player, like, right now, not, like, in the league. Mm-hmm. And an All-Star is not really, like, a motion offense situation, so I would maybe want Harden for his
my only, like, really, like, line in the sand, real or not real, so real... All-Star edition is that they should just televise this thing. What are you doing, Adam Silver?
Hashtag televise the draft.
Please.
Let's move on.
Yes.
A lightning heat check.
Lightning heat check.
Boom shakalaka! He's heating up. He's on fire.
Back to where we began. Karl Anthony Towns is repping hard for the Eagles on social media.
Yo,
what's the derivation of that?
I think he's from Jersey.
Oh, right. Yes.
So he grew up watching the Eagles, which is cool. It's fine. You might want to pump the brakes a little bit.
Real dicey, man. You're in Minnesota.
You're in Minnesota. Like I respect his loyalty to his, and I'm using this very loosely, not so much hometown as home area team.
Sure.
But, like, you got to show a little deference to, like, they're playing the Vikings and they got smacked. Like, maybe don't rub their faces in it.
Also, like, just get off Embiid's corner. We get it. He's the NBA's Phillies fan. He's the NBA Eagles fan.
Yeah.
Like without much of a claim. You know what I mean?
A little bit much. A little bit much.
I like it, though. And when he first came into the league, Embiid said that if he made an All-Star, or Rihanna said if he became an All-Star starter, she would consider dating him, and now he's no longer interested.
He's no longer interested.
Your team is trying to cool you off here, but years ago, you were denied by a young woman who told you to come back when you were an All-Star. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody on TNT right now?
I mean, she denied me back then, so... why go with her again? So I have to pass that and move on to the next one.
I don't know, man. I think Rihanna's still the queen. I think she's still
she's gonna be fine.
Still pulling celebrity rank and, like, importance over Joel Embiid as much as I love JoJo.
Yeah, she's gonna be fine. Another heat check. Your boy Rob Pelinka.
Rob Pelinka says that the Lakers probably will not be involved in the trade deadline, and here's what he had to say about that. I don't know if this is the perfect metaphor, but maybe a nod back to Dr. Buss, who we all know loved to play cards. The trade deadline, you almost have 30 GMs sitting around a big card table, and they all have their deck of cards. What you're trying to do as a player is analyze the other 29 players. What may they have? What may they move? What may be their next move in this card game? Sometimes two players across the table do a trade and reshuffle cards. That changes the scenarios you're looking at. So right now, I think everyone is assessing the other 29 teams and what they might do. Usually you see in that last week is when most of the major moves are made. And again, our goal is singular. It's climbing up the Larry O'Brien Trophy Mountain, getting to the top. Along the way, we have to show improvement, blah, blah, blah. Rob, I don't know who you're talking to with this. Is this, like, for the fans? Is this trying to, like, remind people that he knows who Jerry Buss is? Like, he remembers that he's there to win? I don't know who this quote is supposed to comfort.
My favorite part about that whole thing was also that he said he wouldn't get involved in the trade deadline unless it improves their championship outlook. What? Well, like, I don't know. I've watched a lot of Lakers basketball this year. At no point did I consider their championship outlook.
I'm concerned about the Lakers. I just want them to be fun, and
yeah.
I don't know that they're out there heading in the right direction.
Like, I was watching their game yesterday, like during commercials for football.
They beat the Knicks.
Yeah, they beat the Knicks fine. I just wonder what this team is.
Yeah, I don't.
It's the same per usual.
I don't know if they know. Let's talk about this week in basketball. We're going to the Celtics at Lakers tomorrow.
Group trip. I'm excited for it.
I'm pumped too. I hope the Celtics win. I don't know.
You're going like you're worse. You're going to be journalist Juliet.
Yeah, of course.
This is excellent.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you're going to be in the stands.
No.
Okay. Well, this is better.
Thanks to the Lakers for hooking me up.
Yeah.
For the press pass. Thursday, Wolves at Golden State.
I'm excited for this one too because I want to see the Wolves as they've been playing better, and Jimmy Butler has sort of marshaled them, and the defense has been better. Like, this is a real test.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
The Wolves are a little in the Clippers zone for me. Like they don't look like they're having a great time on the court, but that's also kind of makes them intriguing to watch because I'm like, oh, okay, you guys are playing well, but you still don't like each other. Interesting.
Yeah.
And Friday, Rockets at Pelicans. Interesting.
Lots of all-stars.
Yeah, the Pelicans are now like, yeah, maybe they could win. They're just they're a 50-50 team.
Run them out there.
You just never know. The NBA is really fun right now.
It is.
I'm very much into it.
I'm excited.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. I actually will not be.
You will not be. I will be with a co-host
who remains nameless.
Yes.
TBD.
TBD.
Thanks for listening, and check out the Ringer NBA show all week.